Okay, you want to do the intro? You do the intro?
Okay,
Did you want the door closed or open?
Because of the echo, off, right?
Yeah. Anyway, while Leo's doing that, hello everybody. Welcome back to the VanArts After Hours podcast. The official and also unofficial, well, to be honest, it's just unofficial podcast of VanArts.
At 3 in the morning.
Yeah, at 3 in the morning. Wayne Gilbert is here with us today.
Yeah, Maya was unavailable, but we got a great special guest tonight.
Yeah. Just about as good.
I'm second choice. Lovely.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, welcome Wayne. Thanks for being here with us.
Yeah.
All good.
We know you have a pretty tight schedule, so this means a lot. We listened to you and we planned this out very meticulously. So yeah, in this podcast we of course talk about work animation, but we also ask the unimportant questions.
Okay.
So, but let's start with let's take it from the top. What I have a very specific one I wanted to ask you. Was there anything you wanted to do besides animation, like ever thought about? I don't know.
Well, when I was in high school and we did those tests about where you should go, I came up that I should be a lawyer.
Wow.
I said no, because you have to study to be a lawyer, so I'm not going to do that. I was really involved with sports when I was young, so at one point I did think about going into the sports, like physiotherapy, sports, but I started with animation right after high school, and that was it.
Well,
yeah, same with us here right now.
I should have gone into sports therapy, though. I've had so many injuries, it would have been.
Yeah, I know you did. You've told us about you've done like martial arts and stuff.
Yeah, but I lie about those things.
Oh, okay.
We can't tell which one.
No, when I was in college, Sensei Kamita, who brought Aikido to North America, was going around to the colleges to see if anyone was interested in it and taking it, and I had no idea what it was. When you're young, you always think, oh, I'm going to be a karate expert and get into fights. So, the thing I liked about Aikido is it was non-combative. Is you're always not necessarily on the defense, but you're deflecting whatever comes at you. So I started when I was in college, and then afterwards, when I got really busy at work, I stopped for a while, but I forget how many years it was after that. I looked up, he had a school in Toronto at the time, so I rejoined it.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and then I separated my shoulder and said, nope, I'm done.
Should have went to physiotherapy.
Yeah.
We've heard a lot from you, like these snippets of stories, like Star Wars, Skate.
Wow.
Which, according to you, some might be lies. So maybe that was why you were recommended to be a lawyer.
Well, I've really, since graduating from animation at Sheridan College, I've only worked at Costco, so I can't say much, but I think so. No, I guess we always point out to people that animation is a very broad industry. So when we say, oh, I'm in animation, that could mean any number of things.
Right.
I started in traditional animation in the early 70s, so there was nothing else, no option around there. But as things evolved and software evolved and studios changed, I had the opportunity to work 2D, 3D, pardon me, on feature films, commercials, and then video games. So although I don't like technology, but I learned, I found the people that could teach me what I needed to know, even though they got frustrated at times. And then I got very comfortable with it at ILM to a point where they used to joke about, give it to Wayne, if it can break, he'll break it. And then they were bringing me things to fix. So but it was. I was kind of split between wanting to animate and wanting to do backgrounds because I loved watercolor painting. I was introduced to that in college more so than high school, but so I had a chance. I worked in both when I was in the 2D world. And then going to ILM, it was all 3D, but then they changed software packages. We started with soft image, moved to Maya, and then when I came up to direct video games, it was 3D Studio Max. You know, it's just so. But the thing is, as you guys have to understand, is your animation skill is the foundation. You just adapt to however you need to deliver it. Yeah, because there's a book that says it's for 2D, 3D, stop motion, cutout, and boogers and hair.
There you go. Heard it here first.
Yeah, you heard it here. Sorry, can you move the camera a little bit?
Yeah.
I ask this to a lot of people, but with you having this long, great career, what has been your favorite project you've ever worked on?
I think every project had high points and low points. I think I really had the most fun on commercials because they were short, focused, and you had a chance to play like really cartoon things. And so that's everything, animating everything from a Ziploc sandwich bag to Pepsi Man, which is out of Japan, which was realistic animation, but you had to treat it in a cartoony way, a Charlie Chaplin kind of way. And then there was Pillsbury Doughboy and Honeycomb Craver. Actually, back in 2D, it was shoes and Hostess Munchies, you know, so commercials were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I've never worked on television animation. I've
Oh.
only worked on half-hour specials and feature films and commercials.
Wow.
Would
You heard
you
it here first.
would you still now, if you were given the chance, like want to try television animation? Just to
Depends on the
see what it
show.
was like?
I mean,
Of course.
Oh,
I've seen like a full range of quality. So when you shows for toddlers, they don't require that
Yeah.
much.
Mhm.
But there's this one show that my nephew's sons were watching when they were little called Odd Bods.
Oh, right.
Yeah, or Pokio. Pokio.
Pokio.
I love Pokio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're working on something like that, that would be different. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, Pokio was great.
Yeah.
Even though it looked really simple.
Yeah, or like anything Aardman has done
Yeah.
is fun, but the Odd Bods, they're like the Three Stooges all the time, just having fun. Yeah.
This is a more of a fun question, just little side note. Have you ever heard of a show called Invincible? It's a 2D show by any chance?
I have heard of it. Can't say I've seen it.
Oh, okay.
Why?
Just talking about animation, like Carl and I just finished it like a couple days ago, and we've been talking
Yeah,
about
we
it
love-
nonsense.
we love
We love it, yeah.
Invincible.
Well, okay. What's the theme?
It's a
Superhero.
basically it's a superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a superhero, like animated series, but it's not as because Marvel is like too cliche to the point. Like like we saved the world. No one really like has a horrible life.
Right.
Let me save it from.
All right, okay. The Invincible expert. Let's go.
So it starts off and it baits you into thinking, oh, it's a Saturday morning superhero cartoon show, and then there's a twist at the end of the first episode, and so you get this big mystery. It just in any case, if you ever watch it, if you
I
don't,
will. No, I will. I
Perfect.
think my son has watched it, so I'll check it out.
And so you get this like world that mimics a lot of tropes from comics or
Right.
superheroes,
Right.
but then it flips a particular one on its head, and it's about morality and about the consequences of like what would really be if someone had that much power,
Okay.
and the one gleam of hope in that world that's Invincible, the guy with like youth and hope and just being
Okay.
a regular guy.
No, I'll look into it this weekend.
Yeah,
I
even-
promise. Yeah.
Perfect.
No.
Even the animation itself, they geared it towards looking more like the comic itself.
Okay.
It's not super in between like smoothest animation, but they wanted to make the shots feel like the comic book
Okay.
shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Also-
a fun watch.
Also, we should warn you, it's kind of very gruesome.
He'll be fine.
Super
Hey,
violent.
you know,
Perfect.
Perfect. He'll
Yeah.
be fine. It's Wayne.
It's Wayne.
He suggested gruesome stuff to Luke, I think.
You didn't hear that here, though.
You didn't hear that here. That's why it's
Yeah,
after
you heard it
hours.
from Luke.
Not officially. But we also know that you worked in Taiwan for
Yeah.
a bit.
Yeah.
And how was that?
well, it was great. It was a wonderful experience. Because I worked at Nelvana in Toronto, which at the time was one of the biggest 2D studios. First job was at a very odd studio. But then after Nelvana, I freelanced for a while, and then I was asked to teach at Sheridan College, so I was doing both. And while I was at Sheridan, Lenora Hume, who went on to become VP at Disney, she was executive producer at Nelvana. She asked if I'd be interested in going to Nelvana as art director. The director was a very close friend of mine from school, so I went over. It was, I think, 3 months each time. And it was fun but strange in a way.
What was the strange part like?
Well, it's like the first time, I was in an office with other people from Nelvana, and they would bring the work to me to review, and I would make notes, and then I would take it back. And I said, we're getting to a deadline. I need to see these backgrounds. They're getting them done. And I found out that they didn't bring them to me because they knew I would ask for changes. So, but the head of the department was really good, and I said, look, please, I'm telling you right now, if you bring them to me at the last minute and they need changes, they will still get changes. So the next day there was a pile of the things on my desk to look at. And then the next time I went, I said, can I have a desk in the background department?
Yeah.
And they said, well, that'll make the artist really nervous. So I said, some of these artists are better at this than I am, so can I? And they said, yeah, they sent me over there. And it was great. But the weird thing is, to them, it was an assembly line.
Oh.
The guy beside me was phenomenal background artist and couldn't really communicate with anybody unless one of the translators came over. And one day he's just wailing away on the show I was working on. Next day he was on a different show, and I said, he really doesn't care what's in front of me. He's painting. It was an assembly line. Yeah.
So that was a strange part.
Well, you adapt to the culture.
Yeah.
But everyone was so friendly that there were times when Dale, that was the director, friend of mine, they had the video for the door. So if someone came, ring the doorbell, we were on the 11th floor, and you could see who was there, and we wouldn't answer it because they every night they wanted you to go roller skating, play badminton. There's roller skating, badminton, basketball, or go to a concert. So it was just oh my God. So there were times when you just said, please, we're working 5.5, 6 days a week, so just let me relax a little bit, okay? And then the next day, we tried to get a hold of you. And one time, whoever it is got buzzed in, so they actually came to the door because we wouldn't answer it. So Dale and I are going. But there was always a translator around. And one of the strangest things was one of the translators, I found it very difficult to understand her English. And she kept asking me a question. And Dale was with me, and I didn't see him, but Dale's looking at me going. So I finally said, sure, okay. Just thinking, say yes and forget about it. And then the translators left, and Dale went, what's wrong with you? I said, what do you mean? He said, you just agreed that we're going to an Andy Gibb concert. Yeah.
How was the concert, though?
How was it going?
Yeah.
Well, you have to think about this. In Taiwan, I was deaf for 3 days.
Yeah.
It was insane. It really was.
After sitting in an office for knows how long, then going out, boom speakers in your ears.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those multi-level nightclubs with strobe lights all over the place.
After staring at your drawing for a few hours.
Yeah.
Go out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was great. They, the owner, he said, he was so wealthy. Once he said to me, I should just buy a mountain and retire. But they gave everybody a weekend off and bussed everybody. It was like a 6-hour bus drive to a specific mountain that they woke us all up at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then we walked up the mountain for about 2.5 hours so that we could see the sunrise.
Like you have to be wealthy to
I
think
know.
of
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
4 a.m. hike.
You cannot
Yeah.
make this kind of thing up.
4 a.m.
Yeah.
company
No,
hike.
and this was a steep climb up the mountain in the dark, and it was just like a wagon train of 100 or more people, and then it was all gathering to watch the sunrise.
How was the
It was,
sunrise?
it was glorious, but there was a little kiosk guy there with selling souvenirs, and he did the countdown, 10, 9, and right on 1, the sun came up over there.
Wow.
He's seen that like every
Oh,
day
yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point. So
Yeah, we had to walk back down after that too.
You like hiking though?
No.
maybe that's why he talked about that story in that
Yeah.
way. Yeah. I guess in that vein, other than animation, your own projects, what other stuff do you do in your free time or hobbies?
Not anymore. I post a lot of goofy things. I'm working with a person out of New York right now on a potentially very big animation project.
Look out for that.
Yeah. I'm not a self-promoter. I wish I was. He actually said he's going to be my promoter because I've written 10 children's books. I've got them all book dummied, so they're all rough illustrations, and written 2 middle grade novels, 50,000 word novels. And then I'll send them out to a few agents and then get sidetracked and do something else. So I really have to get someone that can.
Yeah, you have to have people like manage them. For you,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's mostly drawing. I stayed away from an iPad because, as I said, I'm not really technology driven,
Mhm.
but I got one a few years ago and realized this is easy.
Yeah, I know you're a
So-
big Procreate
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah, so, but you're saying hobbies, no. But I did play hockey and baseball until late 40s when my son was born, so.
Were you like a Wayne Gretzky?
No. It was fun. I mean,
Yeah.
when I got offered the job in California, which was the San Francisco area, right away some friends of mine who were already working there phoned up and said, "Bring your hockey equipment." I said, "What?" Because we played hockey
Yeah.
twice a week, like up until. I said, "California?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, we got a team. It's mostly Canadians, and mostly from ILM, but about a third are from Pixar, and we're in this league in Oakland that's run by an ex-Montreal Canadian." I said, "Okay," so we played. Yeah,
There you go.
but I'm smart. You guys know. I find if there's an easy way to do something, I find it. For 3 years, we won our division.
Wow.
And my teammates, close friends, got kind of cocky and said, "We're going to go up." This was the gold B division. They said, "We're going up to the gold A division." And I went, "Have fun." I think they lost their first game 14-2 or something like that. So the whole season, they only won 2 games, and that was against another team that came up from the gold B division. then the year after that, they came back down.
Wow.
And then you're like,
No,
hey,
it's
I'm down
over,
again.
yeah.
No, I wasn't. But ILM had an intramural baseball team too during the season. Same thing at Nelvana. We played baseball and hockey. And
What did you play when you were playing baseball? Carl is a hockey guy. I'm the baseball guy.
shortstop and third base.
Wow.
And hockey, it was left wing.
Yeah, I don't know anything about hockey.
Left wing and defense, but left wing mostly.
Come on, man. You're making us look bad.
I mean, I know a lot of. I'm the hockey guy. Yeah, left wing, right? Yeah.
He was right wing in
Yeah,
kindergarten.
I was on the opposite side, so I didn't really know what was going on. Over
Yeah. Yeah, well, we also another thing. We also played flag football for decades, and I brought that up at ILM, and they started a league. It was all just goofy stuff. I mean, we all had to go to work the next day, so
It wasn't like the Taiwan
no,
night
no.
after night sports,
No.
different sports, badminton,
Yeah.
volleyball,
Concerts.
Yeah, it was-
concerts,
yeah, it was fun.
nightclubs.
Hikings.
Roller skating. No, no thanks. I did that when I was in high school. Not doing it now. Well, even at EA Black Box, when I was animation director on the skate video games.
Oh.
Every second Thursday, they went to, I forget the name of it now, but it was an indoor skate park, so everyone could skate. And they said, "Come on, we'll teach you how to skateboard." No. And the marketing director, she decided, okay, I'll give it a try. So she had like almost full armor, elbow pads, helmet, and
Helmet,
everything.
knee
Yeah,
pads.
she broke her wrist and cracked,
there
cracked
you
her
go.
elbow. Yeah.
And that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just there with the video camera. I was getting reference for the game.
That would make great marketing material, though.
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah.
skate
Well,
part.
well, the executive producer was really great because he was an A-type personality. He just whatever he was doing, that's all. You can't talk about anything else. And so he was going to become a really good skateboarder.
Oh.
And he was good. He was good on longboarding.
Mhm.
But there was one room off to the side which was a ramp and a bowl for
Oh,
skateboarding.
yeah.
And I was just wandering around with the video camera, so I thought, oh, I'll look in there. And I looked in, and there he is. He's standing at the edge of the bowl, and I could tell he's never dropped in before.
Oh.
And I was just watching. He went face down.
Yes,
into
first
the
drop.
bowl.
Did you get it on tape?
Oh, yeah, on camera.
No.
Ah.
Yeah, very super complicated. I told you this like months ago, but thank you for working on Skate. I love that game.
Yeah, I love.
That
Yeah, I
well,
love that game.
that goes to Jay Ballmer, the person who was in charge of the controller designs, because he wanted it to feel like your body moving, so that's why the thumb controllers are all in there.
Yeah.
Far less button mashing, like Tony Hawk didn't
Yeah.
want any of that. It was just, they said, we want the highest quality animation that we can get. A lot of it was motion capture, but coming from ILM, when we worked with motion capture, I said to them, well, okay, well, we can make this better. And they went, it's motion capture. You can't make motion capture better. I said, why not? You go lower, you
Yeah,
go higher, you
yeah,
go
exaggerate
lower.
it.
Yeah, just, and then another cool thing about that was, because I always said, like, why does game animation look so bad?
Mhm.
Well, it had to do with engine memory,
Yeah.
how
Mhm.
much information could go in. But we put in this animation, and the executive producer got on my back, said, you know, we want better animation. I said, well, okay, take a look at what went in the game, and take a look at what's in the game. And so, but this is, again,
Yeah.
to me, it's just common sense. I think, well, I went to the software engineers and I said, why? And they said, well, we have to get all of that information into the game, so in order to consume less memory, we have to compress the information.
Yeah.
So I said, what does that mean? And they said, we take the highs and the lows out. I said, that's the life of the animation.
Yeah.
Then it would
So-
just be motion capture.
so I
Check
said-
out what you did.
Well, so I said, can you not take out the middle? And they went, yeah, we could do that. So that improved the quality.
I guess
just-
they weren't thinking like
no,
an animator.
no, they were thinking
Yeah.
like scientists.
Yeah.
Compress it.
Instead of cutting it in
When,
the middle.
yeah, instead of compressing, yeah, they're compressing the information that was in it, but they didn't have to take it from the extremes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And besides, when you take it out of the middle, that just makes everything blend better. So.
Right.
Mm.
Wow.
There you go. A little behind the scenes in
From the
Skate
making of Skate.
1 and 2.
Well, there's all sorts of things like that's why we're always talking about your critical eye, how you
Mhm.
see things. Another time, the executive producer showed up and he was on my back about this animation sucks. You got to change it all. And I'm thinking, I'm looking like the 6 animators. I said, everything that went in the game was right. I don't know what you're talking about. Come on, go in the boardroom and they start playing the game, and I'm looking at it thinking that animation's horrible. But I said, it's not the animation. So eventually I said, no, it's not the animation. Go get Scott. I forget his name now. So I said, okay, I want you to delay the camera by 4 frames. So he delayed the camera by 4 frames, and then, oh, it was the camera. The camera in relationship to the carving and movement was off.
That's another big thing in video games, specifically. Like
Yeah.
in animation, you can control it perfectly,
Yeah.
but in video games, the camera is controlled by the players.
Yeah. And specifically Skated has this like high camera.
Yeah, but it's also trailing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's right on, when it curves, it just looks all off balance. So it
Mhm.
had to be delayed a certain number of frames. Yeah.
But they thought it was the animation team's
Well, they did
fault.
the same thing when the character was climbing a ladder. They said the animation sucks, and I said change the camera. So,
Round 2.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like
And well, going back, how was your first job like? But more specifically, how was it even just like walking in day one.
You have to excuse me, I have to check something here.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, no problem.
No, because I just, in case a schedule was changed. No, I'm good, okay.
All right.
First, okay. Oh, sorry about that. Coming out of college, I was fortunate. A job came up for a small studio called Leach and Rankin. And I went for an interview thinking that I would start after college, but they offered me a job before college ended. And then Sheridan just said, okay, if you got a job, we'll take that into account for your. So I went, and it was called Witch's Night Out. And the reason I'm saying it was very strange, I'm from traditional animation, so you're taught how to draw on paper and you flip it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, John Leach wanted a unique look, and he was a tremendous artist. And his wife, Jean Rankin, she was the art director, so she had this beautiful approach to rendering on paper, what I'll tell you quickly about in a second. But all the in-betweening, instead of being on paper where you can meticulously shape it, it was on acetate. So you're flipping acetate with a technical pen, so you're inking as you're flipping. So it had this kind of amoeba-like movement to some of it. And then the backgrounds, because I applied for background painting. Started off as an animation, and then about 4 or 5 months into production, they needed more background artists, so they asked me, or a second background artist. So I spent half the day in the animation studio and half the day at their house doing backgrounds, and then it was full days doing backgrounds. But the backgrounds were this weird special paper where we would do the drawing in reverse, and then with Pantone markers block it all in, so these big blocks of color, and then turn the paper upside down and fled Varsol through it. So the Varsol would push the Pantone marker into the other piece of paper and spread it out a bit. And then you take that, and with Prismacolors you would clean up edges and ink and everything. Now, that sounds like fun, right? But think about it. All day, Pantone markers and Varsol.
Oh.
So at night, you're either floating home, or your head weighs about 38 pounds.
Or you're not getting home.
You're not getting home.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun, and it's a funny film. I can't find. I've got a really bad copy of it. I can't get copies of any of Nelvana's half-hour specials, and they were really popular. And then Rock and Rule, which is Nelvana's original feature film, that was special.
Yeah, we know you have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
I had a lot to say when I worked on it.
Yeah.
But the learning environment was phenomenal. Like some of
yeah.
the most amazing animators and background artists and illustrators. Just not storytellers.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's if we got you to go into that, it would be about an hour more of podcast.
Well, no, it was just they went into production before they were ready. They had Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson from Disney come up and look at the animatic, the plan for the film, and they were told, you're not ready to go into production, wait until you have a tighter story. And they pretty much said, thanks for the advice, and went into production. And then over 3 years later, there was a film that was 83 minutes long and 30 minutes of finished film cut out of it. So, yeah. That's why we're so adamant about don't start until you know what you're doing.
Decide.
Yeah. Well, we just started term 4, and we know you find it pretty, I'm going to say amusing sometimes.
Yeah, amusing. Lightly put it.
He's nice, though, for any juniors listening.
Potential juniors,
Yeah, so this is kind of a random question, but how was your first year here teaching, and was term 4 as chaotic as you expected?
It was worse.
Oh.
Because, but VanArts was different at that time. The way it was set up was 3D and 2D were separate. So they had their own lectures, they had their own history of. They didn't interact with one another. Software was transitioning then, so the 2D students in term 3 worked in Flash. So they hand drew for 2 terms, Flash for term 3, and then term 4 they could either do Flash or a hand-drawn film. The 3D people, I just went, what? 2 terms learning how to animate. Term 3, they learned Maya and soft image. So they had to design, build, and rig a character.
So the first 2 terms was just like hand?
No, it was
like
3D.
2D?
3D, but there weren't very many rigs available. So it was, so all of term 3 was technical. 2 software packages, designing, building, rigging, and texturing a model that they could animate with in term 4. So term 3 had no animation in it.
Whoa.
They had story and visual language, so they were developing a story and building a character. So by the time, and so in term 4, none of the rigs worked, and the stories weren't worth pursuing for the most part. So Charles, who had been here before I joined, he had the 2D department. It was just smoking. It was great. And we talked about it and just said 2D and 3D shouldn't be separated at all. I mean, every lecture should be the same, because they were doing 3D lectures to the student. So we just changed it. This is an animation school. You're choosing 2D software or 3D software, that's it. At that time it was 3D or hand-drawn.
Oh, okay.
And story and visual language is the same. The only separate course would be technology. You take a harmony class or a Maya class. Life drawing's got to be the same. Why would you separate that?
So even life drawing, there was a separate 3D life drawing class?
Well, the teacher was the same, so it's just that it was separate. But at that time, like the first class I had, there was only 4 students in it. So if you got 4 students in a life drawing class, why not grab 2 or 3 of the other classes and put them all in at the same time? So Charles is brilliant with efficiencies as far as scheduling and everything is concerned.
Oh, we know.
We're
Yeah,
well aware.
Yeah. So it just it changed. The first couple of years were sorting out those inefficiencies.
Can you imagine like 2D, 3D separate? We wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't be here.
No VanArts
I don't
After
know
Hours.
this guy. There would be like 4 people in their class right now. But yeah. So I guess you came in at like a transitional period, or I guess you helped start the transitional period.
I guess so, because the president at the time, technically, he just said, "Here are the keys, fix it." So,
Wow.
and Charles had he had the same ideas.
And were you, you were just like head of 3D animation, or were you already head of like animation department, or what did you come in as?
We know that at some point you also taught story visual language.
Yeah, well, that had to do with faculty availability.
Oh, okay.
There was a year when one of our teachers who taught story and visual language at the time, but amazing animator. He worked at Disney and DreamWorks in hand-drawn animation, and then he went into 3D animation. But he chose to leave on short notice. And it's we're kind of picky about who's teaching. It's hard to just say, okay, there's someone, they're alive, they're breathing, bring them in.
Because they gotta fit into the.
So during the transition, I was teaching life drawing, story visual language, and animation. I was doing the lectures for those. And then we found a couple of life drawing instructors, but they just weren't working out. And then finally, Tomas came in. That's ideal. And we couldn't really find the right story and visual language person because we needed someone with animation experience. So we found someone to teach animation. That meant I switched from doing the animation lectures to doing story and visual language. And then when Fernando, we decided to make another teaching change. And then when we found Fernando, who's all 2D experience, well, he knows a little bit of 3D. But I was specifically looking for someone to teach story and visual language so that I could do the animation course again.
Right. That's how we got Fernando.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, I was talking to Thomas the other day, and I was like, yeah, you studied here, right? And he was like, yes. And I was like, how was term 4 for you? Just make conversation, and he started smiling, and he told me, has Wayne told you, are you having fun yet?
Tomas chose a rig that didn't have IK hands, but he wanted to do certain things that needed IK hands. And I said, Okay.
Yeah, it's weird to imagine like you treating Taiwanese as like one of us
Yeah.
are right now.
Well,
It's wild
when
to
I
me.
was when I was at Sheridan, like one of my true mentors, and I'd say there are three that I could mention, became a colleague because after working in the industry for a certain number of years and then teaching at Sheridan College, he was now a colleague.
Wow.
So yeah,
How was that?
it was very strange, but it was great because I could go to him for anything I needed.
Yeah.
You know, as far as teaching certain things, putting course outlines together, and the one thing that I found is that if a student asks a teacher a question, you can tell whether they know the answer or not, or whether they're sort of giving the answer, and that came up a few times in an interview, and so if I was asked a question, if a student asked me a question, I don't know the answer, my response is, I don't know. Let's find out. But let's find out has to be attached to it.
Yeah. Because if it's just I don't know, then it's like, why did I ask?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've experienced that at least. Let's find out.
Yeah. But you've also discovered that if that's comes up, there's more than one way to do anything.
Yeah.
That's why I think you're the one that insists on exploring options all the time, right?
Me? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's definitely not me.
I'm always breaking things, finding ways. Yeah.
Well, but to me, as we've talked about this in the past, that an artist is somebody who explores.
True.
A craftsman is somebody who knows how to do something a certain way and meticulously. But an artist is somebody who looks for something new, different.
Yeah.
You heard it first, right?
You heard it here.
No,
You're gonna
I'm
quote it.
sure that's been said many times.
Yeah.
What got you into animation?
Popeye.
Popeye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He dropped by the house one day. I loved Popeye when I was a kid. And in grade 6, when the teachers were asking the question, what are you going to do if you grow up? I pretty much answered, I want to be an animator. And why? Because I love Popeye cartoons.
Yeah.
And then when a representative of Sheridan College came to my high school and pitched their animation program, I thought, oh man, that's it. That's what I'm doing. Yeah. And then I got there, and I started in the Art Foundation program, and then decided I wanted to switch. And the head of animation program looked at my work and said, fine, you can start. I came in, I was, I think, 4 weeks into the semester, and when they started to explain, so you do a different drawing for at least every 2 frames, and I went, what?
This is what animation is? What?
And that class was filled with super talented people. One of the other 3 true mentors, Charlie Bonifacio, was in my first class. And he's the first animator that Disney allowed to work from home.
Wow.
Because he didn't want to, I believe, if I'm getting the story right, he didn't want to move the family to Florida, where they wanted him to work, so they set him up to work from Toronto.
So he was so like needed by them that they did all of that
He
for
was
the first
asked.
time.
He was asked to go over to Spain to help finish Klaus, and to help with the juniors develop their drawing skills, and to get more. Yeah, Charlie's amazing.
I guess that's why he's such a good mentor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds impressive.
Yeah, because they would do all of that just to get him to.
Yeah, and then
help
the other mentor, Louis Cavagna, was at Nelvana in the background department, and he was just Yoda. It was crazy. Whatever I thought I knew about watercolor painting, all I had to do was stand behind him and watch for an hour,
Yeah.
and then ask questions. Yeah.
That's big coming from someone who worked on Star Wars.
Star Wars, like I was part of a crew who did your shots. You know, there are difficult shots, there are easy shots, there are shots that are confusing. Sometimes we're working on 2 things at the same time, 2 productions at the same time, or commercials. Yeah, it's just, yes, I worked on it. I was part of a large crew that worked on it.
Yeah, there you go. I guess if Wayne says those 3 are big mentors, then you know they're really good, because I mean,
Wayne
to
is
us,
really
to
good.
all of
Yeah.
us, yeah. Wayne is our mentor.
Yeah, and every one of them is super humble,
Mm.
super humble.
Yeah, I
Like
guess
Jim Macaulay from Sheridan, he was a structural steel engineer before going
Mm.
into animation.
But he just,
Just insane, insane. Lewis, he was a product designer. I forget he was like an engineering designer
Yeah.
type of person. So when I saw his portfolio, I thought I was looking at photographs of automobile components, but they were renderings that he had done.
So the portfolio he submitted are those renderings that was made for like technical use.
No, he
But-
didn't like he just one day he had it with him because I
Oh.
wanted to see it at the studio. And oh yeah, Lewis would sit with a sandwich and a cigarette in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other hand, and he would just look at this drawing, and he'd be eating a sandwich and flicking ashes off the plate and sipping it. And I was standing behind him, and then I said one day, "You know what that's going to look like before you start, don't you?" And he said, "You have to." And then I realized he's planning. Everything's planned in his head. And then he would do these little thumbnail watercolor sketches. That's when I realized, got to be planned. Decisions have to be made. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it done with a sandwich, cigarette.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, well, you think about it. If you don't plan watercolors and you don't know what you're doing, you can't
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah.
That's-
especially with all the layering. And
No, yeah.
watercolor.
I think that was the greatest discipline for learning how to plan things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I also remember the story of the guy who animated himself into a corner.
Well, you've heard that term. You paint
Yeah.
yourself into a
Mhm.
corner where you're painting a floor, and you realize, oh, the door's over there. Yeah, I'm not going to mention any names. He was a close friend. We worked together one summer. He was having a lot of fun animating a Warner Brothers type
Mhm.
piece of thing. And as you know, if you figure out where to cut and when to cut, there's a lot of animation you don't have to do.
Mhm.
Yep.
But he didn't. It was all one shot, and he animated the character over to this place, and then he needed him over here because he was just animating straight ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, planning. And I guess it's harder to view that as like more important now because you can just change everything so easily in
Oh,
software.
but that's a huge pain
Yeah.
in the industry. There's a documentary about when Rhythm and Hughes went out of business, and it's all the animators or like the visual effects people saying, the studio is paid to do 50 shots,
Mm.
but by the time they've changed that shot 3 times, you've got 150
Yeah.
shots, but they're not paying any more money.
Yeah.
And one of the examples is James Cameron on Titanic was really picking at these seagulls that were flying, and the visual effects supervisor said, "Look, they're measured, they're right proportion. We have focal length, we have distance. That's how big they are."
Mm.
But he wanted a different type of seagull.
And then
Wow.
So the studio absorbs all that cost.
Mhm.
It wouldn't have made any difference in the success of the movie. All the money goes to someone else. So that's what I said, like even Rock and Roll, 30 minutes, traditional animation, drawn, cleaned up, inked, painted, filmed, and cut out.
yeah, that's just not even just the money, just people's time and then
Yeah,
their
and-
motivation to keep working on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, all that effort, even. Yeah.
Well, it's like even going back to commercials, there were very few changes because you don't go into production until
Mhm.
you start that.
Yeah.
The first commercial I was asked to work on at ILM was that Ziploc sandwich bag
Oh.
commercial. And I said, they told me, okay, they'll have the rig ready for you in a couple of days. I told you this.
Yeah.
I said, no, don't let him touch it until I've decided how it's going to move.
Mhm.
So traditional animation, I had a disc and I would flip, and I did an animatic with the thing moving, and then I figured, okay, that's how it has to move. So I don't know how to rig a thing, but so I said, okay, so I need a controller here and here to do this so that I can do this.
Yeah.
And that information went to the rigger. It was done in a half a day and never touched again. So
There you go. Instead of going back and forth, well, they give you the rig and that's
if
not
he
what I
had
need.
given me the rig, he said, I never would have rigged it that way.
Yeah.
I said, well, it never would have moved the way I wanted it to either. So
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's hard if it's something you've never animated before, like a Ziploc bag.
Oh, no, strange. It was a Ziploc bag, but it popped open in the bottom. That was another thing. It was a flat sandwich bag, but the bottom popped open, so it was more like a pyramid.
Mm.
It didn't last long. Why would you have anything like that? But it was a fun commercial.
Good commercial. Product. I don't know.
Well, we also did gingerbread cookie commercials. And there's also
You can imagine, like, you didn't have to send the rig back to the river with that one, right?
With which one?
With the gingerbread.
Yeah, with gingerbread.
No, because it was the same thing.
Yeah, you
I did
planned
a
it
bunch of
way ahead of
drawings.
time.
Yeah, just because the animation director asked me to do that, so I just did a bunch of drawings because we knew that it had to do certain actions and move a certain way. So it's picking out where the joints would go, how it would
Mhm.
move, and it had to kind of teeter
Yeah.
when it walked. So yeah.
What's your favorite Canadian holiday?
Canadian holiday.
Yeah, I mean, he's
It would
Canadian.
have-
What do you want me
it'd
to
have
ask?
to be the one coming up because it's the longest.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Christmas in Canada, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, because when I was in the States, I thought, where'd all our holidays go? Because like even at Easter, a lot of companies here have 4 days.
Yeah.
In the States, there wasn't
None.
an extra day.
Yeah.
And so in the summer we have a long weekend every month,
Mm.
not in the States. There's Thanksgiving, there's Christmas. I think there might have been and
4th of July.
4th of July, and
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we just consider a lot more holidays enough reason to have a time off.
Oh yeah, yeah. And now there's Family Day in BC and
Yeah.
the extra
Family Day,
ones.
BC Day, Canada Day,
Yeah,
Victoria Day.
Yeah,
We just went through them all.
yeah. That's just fine.
Yeah, how are we with time?
Yeah, we're pretty good. 46.
Perfect.
Well, I'm gonna get a message soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well.
Cool.
Oh,
That's alright. Thanks for
yeah.
joining us. I mean, if you need to read that, go ahead.
No, I'm going to get it texted.
Oh.
I'm being picked up shortly, so
Mm.
that's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
My parole officer every
Your
night
pro.
I have been.
Yeah, you heard it here.
yeah. He might be lying though. We don't know.
He might be. Who knows? At this point, I don't trust him anymore. After all of this.
Well, we have done things like that. I remember one thing in particular. It was, I forget what it was now. It had to do with, I mix change words and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you tell someone to go and like a rookie and say, can you go and get the paper stretcher because we need a
Some-
layout. We need yeah.
Some mythical
Yeah.
thing. They go on it for hours
Yeah.
and crank them. Well,
Ah.
hopefully we won't fall for that in term 4. So.
No, but I have in lectures before said things that were just dead wrong to see if anyone was listening.
That's a good idea.
Now he's taking me back. Now I'm just thinking. Like,
Yeah.
did I?
Yeah. It's like,
Like all the advice I gave you last night was wrong.
yeah. People in the
He's
ind-
lying right now. He's lying right now.
People in the industry actually don't use arcs.
Yeah.
That was a myth.
Well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you
your
for
time.
coming.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah. For listeners, well, this was Wayne Gilbert in the flesh. Probably.
Yep.
Maybe he was an AI.
Maybe he's lying again.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great evening.
Thank
We
you.
loved
Thank
you being
you.
part of it.
Thank you. All good.